Hi everyone, this is Kayla Martin-Gann, and I am the Continuing Education Coordinator for the Mississippi Library Commission. This is part one in a series for social media for libraries. This is an introduction to social media marketing. And before I get into all of the ins and outs of the different social media platforms that I'm going to cover, I want to cover marketing in general, just a little bit. So what we're going to go over is just a brief overview of marketing, the rules of content, and an intro to social media, again, before we get into all the big stuff. And when I say the basics here for Marketing 101, I do want to emphasize that I mean the basics. There's a lot more to it than this, but this is pretty much what you need to know in order to really get started and to kind of understand the direction you need to take with your social media marketing. Okay, so what is marketing exactly? Mark Polger, the author of the Library Marketing Basics book, says that marketing represents the long-term planned activities and communication strategies an organization engages in so that they can connect their products and services with their intended users, which is a really articulate, beautiful way to say it. But for the sake of simplification, what you need to know is that your goal as a library is to increase awareness of who you are, what you do, and how much value you bring to the table. So briefly, these are the different branches of marketing. There's internal marketing, which is, getting your employees and your staff on board with whatever you're doing. This is especially important like when you're rolling out a new service. And because when employees are enthusiastic about your services, they can really relate the value of those services to your patrons, and they can, help answer questions. And that's especially useful, like say for ebooks and e-readers. I know a lot of you probably have a lot of patrons who have issues with their ebooks, and they bring all of their tablets and their devices into the library and they need help. And if your employees don't really know what they're doing and don't really care about the ebooks and the ebook platform, those patrons aren't really going to have a good experience, and they're going to walk away from that not being very confident in your library's like competency, and also they're not going to care about the ebooks much anymore. There's also relationship marketing, which is kind of exactly what it sounds like. It's building personal relationships with your patrons because that's what keeps them coming back. They often bring people with them. I know a lot of you probably have patrons where like you are their librarian. They come to talk to you, nobody else. And if you're not there, they'll leave. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. Ideally, we want lots of people to have those relationships with lots of patrons. Because when you form that connection, that also forms a loyalty to you and your library. There's social marketing, which is not the same as social media marketing. Social marketing is used to like push a social cause or to change a behavior of a large audience. A really good example of this is the long, like decades long anti-smoking campaign that's gone on in the US. That's an attempt to modify the behavior of the entire country. There's services marketing, which like marketing your services should be centered on patrons instead of products. Kind of like I said before, it's really demonstrating the value of what you're bringing them. That helps you build relationships, and you're showing them how what you offer can make their lives easier. And then there's content marketing, which is primarily what you're all familiar with and is also mainly what I'm going to be talking about. Content marketing is compelling visuals, audio, and text. It draws people in and aids in promotion, social engagement, and the development of a library's personality and presence. And a library's personality and presence is really important. Marketing strategy. This is just a basic introduction into the ins and outs of creating a marketing strategy. There's obviously more nuance to it than this, but this is the basics. So first, you have to do your research. You need to investigate the wants, needs, and habits of your users, and you also have to figure out what you and your library are missing. What is it that you're not delivering that people could use and need? Then you need to identify your demographics for targeted marketing. Targeted is very important. That's called segmentation, and we're going to talk about that more in a little bit. Then you need to set goals for both what kind of content you want to put out there and the frequency at which you want to put it out there for each of those target groups. And you need to do this like while you're asking them questions and getting to know them and figuring out what it is they like and want and what they'll respond to. There's a lot of preliminary research that goes into creating a marketing plan. Then you'll need to create, promote, and deliver those products and services according to that research. Then you gather feedback, you tweak stuff, and then you rinse and repeat and do it all over again. And you keep doing it and keep doing it. This is not a one and done deal. This is something that you need to be doing regularly. You always need to be improving your services and streamlining your organization whenever possible. So if you take nothing else away from this presentation, I want it to be this slide right here, because this is the most concise explanation of the mental shift that we as librarians really need to start taking in terms of marketing our libraries properly. And what this is you have to be able to answer the question, how does this benefit me? It's great if you have like a whole extensive list and descriptions of all of the databases that you offer as a library. That's wonderful. And all of those databases are wonderful. But that's not in and of itself relevant to your audience, no matter how targeted you make that particular promotion. What you need to do is answer a specific need or a specific potential future need. So, instead of advertising, we have, 25 databases that you can look through. Say you have the Auto Repair Complete database. That database tells you all different kinds of stuff. Like if you put in the make and model of your car, it can tell you, if this is the part you're looking for, like how much it should cost, how much labor should typically cost. And it can give you an idea of that kind of thing before you go to a mechanic. And it can also like direct you on how to possibly do that yourself. So if you, instead of giving a really broad range of services and different things you can do for people, you actually zero in on, hey, if you need help with this, we've got you covered. Not only does that like really get specific and maybe answer some people's needs, but with being specific like that and with offering a concrete service and potentially solving a problem, that's going to stick in people's brains more, and it's going to assign use and value to you as a library in their head. So I said we were going to get back to segmentation. Market segmentation and personas, they sound really complicated. I promise they're not. Market segmentation is literally just like dividing up your audience into groups based on what they have in common. I'm going to go over the different types of market segmentation in a minute. Some of them you're familiar with, some of them you probably won't be, but hopefully we'll fix that by the end of this. And then there are personas. So after you do all of your market segmentation, you can create personas, which are profiles of people that don't actually exist, but are representative of a specific part of your target market or your target audience. And really quickly, I know some people may be confused on this, so let me clear this up. Your target market is who you're marketing to, and your target audience is who you're advertising to. And the difference there is, say, for example, you are trying to pitch a character visit from Elephant and Piggy, which is super fun. Kids love Elephant and Piggy. They love seeing people dressed up in costumes. It's going to be great, right? So your target market is the kids. Elephant and Piggy is for the kids. Like, the adults aren't actually interested in that. But your target audience, who you're advertising to, is not only the kids, but the parents or guardians who are going to be taking them to the library. So with that said, here are the different types of segmentation. First, there's geographics, which is the location and living conditions of your patrons. That is, of course, towns, cities, different regions, but it also covers whether or not they're rural, suburban, or urban, the size and climate and the socioeconomic index, and also like the nature and history of the community. All of that is very important. You have demographics, which are your social characteristics. All of us are familiar with these. This is age, weight, gender, orientation, ethnicity, nationality, religion, languages, education, income. You have psychographics, which are your motivations and lifestyles. This is one of the most important parts because this is what people value, what they believe in, what their attitudes are. Any communal sore spots that they may have, if there's any bad blood or awkward history that you need to steer clear of. Societal and cultural norms and roles in that area, what their budgets are, what kind of activities they're typically interested in engaging in. And as an offshoot of psychographics, you have behaviors. Those are the relevant actions you need to consider when you're marketing to people. So, what their hobbies and habits are, what their styles and aesthetics are, what their media consumption is like, and also their social media and mobile phone use. So, all of those many different characteristics really can come together and form a lot of different kinds of people. You may have a vague idea in your head of the general makeup of your population, but one, you're definitely not going to have a complete picture. And two, the more you understand your community, obviously, the better you can market to them and the better you can serve them altogether. So, personas. Why would you bother to create and use a persona? Because it seems like a lot of extra work for something that you don't have to do. And now, of course, you don't have to do it. But personas are extremely useful tools because basically they give you like a concrete example of a huge slice of people in your community that you can look at this little sheet and yes, it's one person visually, but it represents a whole lot of different people. And that way you don't have to keep juggling a bunch of different numbers and statistics in your head, but also it's easier for you to think in terms of singular people. And it's easier for you to keep those limitations that they may have or specific characteristics of theirs in mind when you're assigning them to one person as opposed to trying to think of them in broader terms. So, how do you create a persona? There are lots of different persona templates out there. HubSpot even has a little generator that can help you get started. It takes you through step by step and gives you like a really basic persona page. But to build a persona, you need to research your market. I cannot emphasize market research enough. We've got to do it, y'all. But you have to do your research and then you determine your different segments and then you choose specific ones to target. So when you're creating these personas, you need to be asking yourself these questions. You need to ask about their demographics, yes, but the reason I went over the different types of market segmentations and all of those different characteristics is because, demographics can tell you a lot about a person, but they certainly can't tell you internally anything about them. Some people may have very similar demographics in a lot of respects, and they may overlap in a lot of ways, but their attitudes and beliefs and what they're interested in and what they value are totally different. And you have to appeal to those people in totally different ways. So demographics, yes, but also what their values and beliefs are, what they're interested in, what their habits are, what their general goals and needs are, what obstacles may prevent them from seeing or engaging with your message, Like, are they going to be able to even see what you're advertising and what you're putting out there? And also, how do they prefer to receive information? That one is really important because if you have a community that is extremely invested in social media and they use that a lot, if you have a community that's really tech savvy and then you're sending them like a lot of paper flyers, you might as well not even bother. So when you're asking yourself all those questions, where are you going to be able to get that information? Well, obviously, a lot of that can come from library user statistics. That's probably where you're going to get a lot of your demographics. You can also put out surveys. You can do that online. You can do that on social media. You can do that in the library. Check social media analytics. You can interview people directly one-on-one. And then also just observe the people that come into your library. And the thing about this is this also is not just important for people who already come to your library, but this is vital in figuring out who's not coming to your library and why. So this is part 2, content marketing. These are just some of the rules and key concepts for content marketing, some of the basics to kind of get you started. So what is effective content marketing? Before you create and post content, there are some questions that you need to ask yourself and some things that you need to consider because you cannot post stuff just to post stuff. I know people do that frequently. I know that especially now that a lot of people have been quarantining for a while or been stuck at home for a variety of reasons, there is a lot of social media posting that you probably might not have seen before, but your library cannot be an entity that does that. And yes, you need to, be consistent, but don't post just random things. Go for quality over quantity every time. So you need to ask yourself if it's strategic. You have to have a plan of action overall. You have to have a path for yourself. Otherwise, you're just going to flounder. Is it relevant? Is what you're doing or creating and sharing, is it providing value? Again, don't post stuff just to post stuff. Is it targeted? You need to gear all of your content toward a specific audience. That's what I was talking about earlier. I know that libraries tend to want to be all things to all people, and we can't do that, y'all, especially with marketing, because the more you try to make it appeal to everyone, the more boring and vague it's going to be, and it's not going to appeal to anyone. So is it consistent? Again, effective marketing has to be consistent. It doesn't need to be constant. You don't need to be flooding people's social media feeds with stuff, but you do need to post consistently in order to be effective. They need to know you're there and that you are actually like doing things. I don't know how to phrase it other than that in a way that really gets my point across here, but if you are posting something, every month or two, people aren't seeing that, especially with the way social media algorithms work. They're definitely not going to see that. And at the end of the day, is it goal oriented? When you are creating and sharing content, it has to have a specific goal in mind. What do you want to accomplish with what you're posting and sharing? And another thing that I want to really emphasize is the difference between promotion and marketing, because we tend to conflate those two terms, but they are not the same thing. Promotion is a part of marketing, certainly, but it's not all there is to it, as you have no doubt gathered from everything I've already talked about. So the difference between promoting and marketing, here are some examples from Laura Solomon's The Nitty-Gritty Guide to Content Marketing. You can tweet an announcement of a new book being available, and that's fine. Or you can do a whole series of tweets about that one book. You could do maybe some of the different blurbs from authors that are on the cover. You could do like the first line of the book. You can post links to early reviews of the book. You can, talk about the book itself. You can like describe it in any number of ways. Promotion would be posting a link for an upcoming program on Facebook. That's fine. Or along with doing that on Facebook, you send an email about that event to specific patrons to whom that program is going to be relevant. And that will help build up anticipation for that program. And it's targeted specifically to them. So they're already interested in that kind of thing. It has a personal touch because it goes to them, because in their mind, they see that you are paying attention to them and that you care about what they care about. And that really can help engage more people and get them more involved in your programs than if you just threw it out there on Facebook. And another idea for promotion would be, like creating a video showing a patron happily using a database, which would be very cute. But marketing would be creating a video that clearly shows a real use of a database. So yeah, like you could make a little video of someone just happily typing away using a database, and it would be like, look, it's Cindy, she's using our database. Don't you want to use our database? And that would be adorable. But actually marketing and getting people like interested in that database, you create a video similar to that, but it also shows how they're using that database and what the result is and what the value of it is. So when it comes to curating content, which just means, like brainstorming, gathering ideas, creating putting together the actual content itself. It takes a lot of planning, effort, and time. And most importantly, it takes teamwork. You cannot do this all alone. You shouldn't, because you will personally run out of ideas, and also you will hit burnout real fast. But other people have lots of different ideas and experiences to draw from. And more importantly, like people want to see the different librarians that are involved in the library. Like they want to know that you're all people, you're interesting people who actually work there and do things. There's not just a giant robot in the back rooms that handles all of the books, no matter what you tell kids. So social media, little introduction, what you need to know. What is the point of social media exactly? I know, we all probably have a lot of different potential answers to this question, but the reality of social media in terms of marketing, especially for an organization, is to make connections and build relationships, to get people engaged and talk back and forth with them, to cultivate and maintain a personality. I know I mentioned that earlier. And then the smallest part of that whole pie should be promoting your collection, services, and programs. Yes, the promotion is important, but it is not the most important thing you should be using social media for by a long shot. So, what role does social media play in marketing? Especially when it comes to promotion, your library's social media channels, they should contain content that's specifically designed for those platforms, right? You don't want all of the same posts on all of your social media platforms all the time. But one thing that they are very, very, very useful for is acting as like promotional distribution centers for your larger forms of content. So your blog posts and your newsletters, like where you get really in detail with book reviews or cool building maintenance or rundowns of programs you put on. That stuff is really detailed and very interesting and thorough. That is not built for social media. It's not scannable. It's not super eye-catching. So you essentially want to create all that stuff and then utilize social media as a way to be like, a sign waver outside going, hey, come look at this thing. So I want to talk about social capital just very briefly. This is also from Laura Solomon. It's from her Nitty Gritty Guide to Social Media. Um, she says that social capital is in many ways it's equivalent to having credibility in a selected community, and it means that others recognize you as someone who provides value. Social capital can only be earned over time by participating appropriately in the community. And the reason I bring this up is because I talked a minute ago about how promotion should not be the only thing that you focus on with your social media marketing. Um, that is because if you have not built up social capital, by which I mean you haven't participated in back and forth engagement with your patrons online, you haven't posted a lot of stuff, you haven't demonstrated your value as an entity, you can't ask people to come to your programs or to come look at your collections or to come to your library and expect them to actually respond to that because you haven't built up that trust. That's why engagement and interaction is so important with social media marketing, and that's why that needs to be your main focus. This is just a small graphic, because I love infographics, love a good infographic. I think we all need to use more of them. This is from Leveragist as of December 2018. What I'm going to be covering in this series is primarily Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, but Pinterest, Snapchat, and LinkedIn are all three that are still used pretty regularly. And I just want you guys to check out some of these stats. So it says Facebook is has 1.57 billion daily active mobile users. That's not even like people that are just messing around on their computers at work. That's mobile users. 1.57 billion. Now, as far as Instagram goes, I love that the most followed brand is National Geographic because I think that really just encapsulates what people love about Instagram and what's so interesting about it. But also, Instagram has over 1 billion monthly active users. And then Twitter, there are over 69 million Twitter users just in the US, and it says 6,000 tweets on average happen every second. Now, these statistics are as of the end of 2018. I would be very interested to see how they have changed since then. So, just to kind of wrap up here, some of the basic things you need to know to succeed. For your social media content, you need to strive to have strategy. You have to go in with a plan. You need to strive for creativity and quality. It needs to be fun, it needs to be interesting, and it also needs to be valuable. And also, you need to strive for consistency. You have to go into this with the intent to post regularly, to engage regularly, and to really put your best stuff out there. And in order to do that, you have to plan. Things you want to avoid just in general are a stodgy voice, as I put on there. You don't have to write everything like it's a press release. I deeply discourage you writing everything like it's a press release. I know that there are some of you that are really, really finicky about how you talk on the internet. But the thing about social media is that you can be both professional and casual, and that's what you want to shoot for as a library engaging with your patrons on social media. You want to be fun and easygoing while still maintaining that professional balance. And we really, really do lean into that old school shushy librarian stereotype when we write everything like we're sending it to the president. You also want to avoid walls of text. I would advocate that just in general because I hate giant walls of text, but more to the point, that is really not conducive to engagement on social media. Like I said earlier, where you don't want to put like all of your long form content on social media itself. You want to link to it. That's where social media channels act kind of as your distribution centers in that regard. Because social media is meant to be scannable. You're meant to, kind of scroll through and save things for later, or scroll through and click something that catches your interest. And if you get hit with a giant wall of text from top to bottom on your phone, you are going to completely ignore that. Avoid promotion over engagement. Like I said earlier, I can't emphasize that enough. Yes, I promise promotion is very, very important, but nobody is going to come to your stuff or react to your promotion if they don't know you and don't trust you and don't interact with you. And finally, don't focus too much on the numbers, by which I mean, like, yes, you need to look at your analytics and your insights, and I will talk about that later, but don't focus so much on likes and shares and all of that kind of thing. You need to be focusing on other metrics that are a little more in depth and more to the point, especially when you're just kind of starting out. Or you're only really now just formulating a marketing plan and starting to kind of get your feet on the ground with a really focused marketing plan. Don't get discouraged by numbers. It does take a little time. And an additional tip, this is true in both text and video postings, front load the best content, by which I mean don't give a soft introduction like you're writing a paper. Be concise and make sure you catch your interest early. As I put here, you're a library, not a recipe blog. How many times have you gone to a recipe blog because you just want to know how to make chicken parmesan with this special fancy coating in this picture that you saw on Pinterest, and instead you've got to go through this person's entire life story with pictures of their dog before you get down to the recipe at the very bottom? I hate it. You hate it. Everybody hates that. Don't do that on your social media posts. Okay, that's it for this first session. This is my information here. Like I said, I'm Kayla Martin-Gant. I am the CE coordinator for the Mississippi Library Commission. If you have any other questions, you can email me or you can call me at that number from my office. Thanks for listening.